I've now had a little bit of time to play with Claude's new Sonnet model, and I have to say I'm very impressed. I've been impressed with Claude Opus for some time, and it's become my go-to, and not just my go-to, but a lot of people's go-to for more human-oriented output. But I have found that OpenAI is more useful in terms of data management and visualization through its Python-based code interpreter tools. But now with Sonnet's addition of artifacts, which you enable through your user settings in the professional plan, it's really made a neat step forward. And the major difference in this, and I have to give a nod to my friend Brad Yim over at Hacking GPT for really doing a great job explaining this in his blog, which I'll post below. Is that OpenAI's approach to code interpreter is to write Python within the OpenAI environment, which is on the server side. So it's on the GPT side of things or OpenAI side of things. What Claude has done instead is that they're enabling writing of code through JavaScript right in the browser, which allows the creation of much more flexible, usable outputs that feel like something you can use right off the bat. Now, there's some limitations with that versus Python's more structured approach, but if you were to try and build any of the examples I'm about to show you in GPT, you'd have to also know how to enable the various Python libraries and create the coding environment and things like that, which isn't really rocket science, but it's beyond the scope of most people. But let's just take a really quick example of, let's create an interactive simulation that visually explains the purchase price versus cost savings of an electric vehicle versus an ICE. So just something that was on the top of my head. And what it's going to do is it's going to think about this for a second, as it always does. And it's opening up this JavaScript window so you can see what's actually happening over here. So if you were to scroll through, it's setting initial variables, etc. It's very digestible to see what it's actually doing over here. We'll give it a second to percolate. Oh, there it goes. There it is. And just right off the bat, you have this function slider feature here where we can adjust different variables in it right away. And then we could do something like add a radio button for state level calculations. Okay, we're going to do that. And we're going to pause for just a second as it runs. So after just playing around with it a few different times, I added a state dropdown, and the state dropdown I calibrated for adjust the average gas price in that state, and then I had it peg annual maintenance figures to average known numbers. I had it add EV tax credits as known on a state level, and we have all of these pieces of interactivity. I mean, I'm laughing a little bit because this is pretty amazing. And from a teaching tool perspective, the sort of things that you could do with this to rapidly spin up cost benefit type equations. People are using it to create really simple, like graphical games like snakes and ladders or whatever it might be. But the possibilities are really endless. And in a very Claude-like way, the sort of communication um, that it puts forward is really, really accessible. It feels a lot more like an intellectual partner than some cold computer or AI that's just doing its thing. So this was a really, really good experience. And obviously, I spent a ton of time using these tools. But even I, wow, this is what this is going to look like going forward. You can also share the tools that you create by publishing them, and I'll put this tool in the link in the comments as well. So if you're interested in it, you can play with it. Of course, trust but verify. So I don't really know where it's pulling this information from. Claude still doesn't have the ability to do browser-based searching, so its training window is dictating what these numbers are coming from. But if I do select a state like California, you can see that it is adjusting to something that rings true. That seems like it's pretty expensive for gas, but I'm not in California. It didn't adjust these other maintenance figures, and it may be missing some other bits here. So you, of course, want to verify it just like you would with any other sort of work output. But for as far as knocking together something that's really useful, just in seconds. This is quite powerful. So I'm going to scroll up in the different tables, and you can see how it went out and it found variables for all of the different electricity prices of state gas prices, state rebates. It seems to have just gone with 2,500 across the board. So I want to check that. Yeah, so really neat cool tool. I highly recommend you check it out.